angel's voice, ASMR. Hi, it's been a while, but we're back on page 111, chapter Marco. Someone had discovered Marco's baby monitor when he turned the receiver on. It started beeping, which he knew from experience meant he'd been found out. Now he would have to examine the paper clips personally if he wanted to know what had happened with Shay and her grandmother, or the senator for that matter. The only problem was how to convince Saveglia to let him leave. There'd been some desertions in the rank of the grill and shake staff, leading the manager to become suspicious of any and all breaks. He should have known he had nothing to fear from Marco. He needed this job, and he had no desire to mingle with the gangs of kids aimlessly wandering the halls. One of the older dishwashers had developed a cough. Marco decided to check up on him. Roberto sat in the back corner on a stool. He held a well-used handkerchief in his hand. "Cold?" Marco asked in Spanish. "It's sleeping in the damn kitchen," Roberto said. "They could at least give us beds. I could take you to the emergency medical team that was in here last night." "Like the boss would give us the time off," Roberto said, smiling wryly. Marco held up a finger and went to Mr. Saveglia's office. "Sir," the manager, who was beginning to look pretty worn out himself, took off his reading glasses and rubbed his eyes. "Yeah, you got a problem." "It's not me, sir," Marco said. "Roberto isn't feeling great, and I think it would be best to get him out of the kitchen. We can't afford to have any of the remaining staff get sick." Mr. Saveglia squinted at Marco as if probing his soul for the truth of this statement. Then he put the glasses back on and turned to his computer. "You take him down and bring him back," Mr. Saveglia said. "No funny business." Marco nodded and ducked out. She clearly knew something was up, and she looked a bit like the senator, so he guessed she was her kid. He remembered the senator mentioning something about a kid. The girl suddenly dropped the scanner and clattered to the floor. The man, her father, stood and asked if she was all right. She waved him off, then stood, checked something on the computer, and walked out of the store. What did she hear? Marco had to talk to this girl. He'd gotten halfway down the hall after her when the guy who'd been with the Richter and Bonner came running toward him. From the multicolored bruise that was now his face, Marco guessed he'd taken a trip through a trash compactor. "Hey, Marco," he shouted. That's new, Marco thought. A Richterite who uses my given name. "What do you want?" Marco said, not stopping. The guy trotted to his side. "We've been looking for you," he said. How lucky for me," Marco said, feigning surprise. "Newsflash, I don't want to see you or your best pal, Mike." "Is this about yesterday?" the kid said. "Mike said you dinged his car, but he seems to be taking it way hard." Marco stopped and gave this guy the once-over. "What happened to your face?" The kid brushed back his shaggy brown hair. "Doesn't matter," he said. "We need your help." Marco wondered if the face was Richter's doing. What makes Richter think I'd help him? "Because we want to escape." The word escape caught Marco's interest. There would be no need to figure out what was wrong with the mall if he no longer had to be in it. "What makes you think I know how to escape out of this mall?" he said. "You know the service halls and stuff," the guy said, waving his hand like Marco ran some black market operation. "Look, you don't have to help us, but this place is not safe." He adjusted his shirt, wincing as if his own skin were painful to him. "You might want some people watching out for you. If you help us, we will have your back." "No, not once you get out of here, you won't," Marco said. "Well, if we get out, we won't need your back watched because we'll be out." He shuffled his feet. "We just want to see if there's a way to escape." Marco thought about whether there could be any unguarded exit. The loading docks had to be watched. They were the obvious escape routes, and he'd seen on his last garbage run that all the parking garage entrance ramps were blocked with airtight barriers. But there was an old fire escape out of the parking garage level in the service hallway. That might be obscure enough to have been forgotten. It was down a little side hall and was just a hatch in the ceiling. Maybe it was unlocked. Perhaps I can find Shay and help her out of here. "Why would I show you an escape route when I can escape without you?" Marco said. "Because I'd skin you alive." Fleshy hands plopped down on Marco's shoulders. "Bonner, you wouldn't be holding out on us, would you, doggo?" Mike said, slinking up from behind Drew. Having already implied the existence of an escape route, outright denial seemed impossible, or at least the move most likely to result in a punch in the face. The better plan was balls-out confidence. "I might have an idea of how to escape," Marco said, rolling his shoulders and shrugging off Drew's grasp. "But I want something in return for showing it to you." Drew cracked his knuckles. "You don't seem to be in too great a bargaining position, mole rat." "I have an escape plan and you don't," Marco said, crossing his arms over his chest, trying to look a bit braver than he felt. "So yeah, I'm in a fairly good bargaining position." Mike's eyes squinted down to slivers. "All right, doggo, what are your terms?" "First," he said, "it's Marco, and second, you give up trying to kill me. That would be his insurance policy in case he survived the killer air in the mall. He would not have to worry about being murdered by Mike at school." Mike lifted his eyebrows. "Well," he said, "that's steep, but I'm willing to meet your terms." He held out a hand. "One, escape for one, get out of the surface hallways, Marco would have some muscle with him to fend them off. It was too bad he hadn't located Shay first, but opportunity was knocking, and this was his best shot. Then, we have an agreement, he said. Mike and Drew were ticked when Marco told them that they had to go all the way up to the third floor to get down to the basement, and not only the third floor, but the service corridor by the grill and shake. My card key works for that elevator door, and that elevator door only, Marco said. Otherwise, I could just ride into the service area of the Best Buy and take whatever I wanted from their storage shelves. Are you saying that all these stores have service halls behind them? Drew asked, his brow furrowed like a Neanderthal contemplating his first tool. No, this is the only one, Marco said. The other stores beam in their merchandise. How about you check the attitude before he breaks your face? Mike was not amused. The service corridor was off the public hallway that led to the mall bathrooms. Marco wondered why there weren't more people lined up to use the bathrooms. But as he got colder, the question was answered by his nose. There were outhouses that smelled better. Does anyone clean this place? Asked the kid who'd introduced himself as Ryan. He held his hand to his face. After cleaning the bathrooms and the grill and shake, Marco said, I can assure you that trying to keep up with the slobs trapped in this mall would be a full-time job for a 4-man cleaning crew. So where is this cleaning? Quit peeking into the men's room and instantly ducking back. Janitors normally get them in at night, Marco said. Guess no one was here when they locked us in. I'm so glad we're getting out of here, Drew said. They arrived at the unmarked service door, and Marco checked to make sure no one was watching, then slipped his keycard into the scanner and pushed open the door. This way, he said. The service corridor was wide and had to roll in the huge pallets of frozen food they used at the grill and shake and roll out the giant garbage carts. The walls were gray-white, perhaps to match the cement floor, and fluorescent lights hung from the high ceiling, and it all had the charm of a morgue. The elevator required another scan to open it, and yet another to select the floor you wanted to go to. Marco's card opened every one. Once the 3 guys were on board, Marco ran his card and hit parking level, and they began to sink down. So what's the plan once we get there? Asked Ryan, who seemed jumpy. We pray there are no cops or no government agents in hazmat suits and make for the escape hatch. Marco slipped the card back into his pocket. Everyone stiffened at the idea of meeting anyone official in their little mission. Drew cracked his knuckles like he was cocking his 6-shooters for the big showdown. The elevator dinged and the doors opened on the familiar grayness that was the parking garage service hall. The HVAC fans clicked on and began their growling whir. Whir. What's that? Drew asked, sounding like a freaked out little kid. The HVAC fans, Marco said, feeling smugly superior. Remember, you chased me in there 2 days ago. So that's where you went, Mike said, like he should have known, like it had all been some game of hide and seek and not find and obliterate. Marco wanted to say, that's where I found the bomb that's meant to kill us all, but he decided against it. Down the hall on the left was a tiny indent in the cement wall with the cheap exit sign over it, and Mike peered into the space suspicious, like Marco was playing some joke, then noticed the hatch in the ceiling. Well, I'll be a donkey's dong. He whipped a finger at Drew and pointed at the floor, down. Drew complied like the lapdog he was, getting down on all fours. Mike climbed onto his friend's back and began twisting the hatch's wheel handle. It wound a half turn, then jammed. What the? Mike said, throwing all his weight into turning the thing. It wouldn't budge. Shrimp, he yelled. Broom. Ryan grabbed a broom that had been left leaning against the wall and handed it to Mike. Mike jammed the broom handle into the wheel and tried turning it again. Marco gritted his jaw to mirror Mike's effort. Turn, you bastard, but the broom handle snapped. Mike threw the pieces, dropped off Drew's back, and slammed his fist against the wall. A barbaric grunt accompanied this display, and his voice echoed up and down the halls. Marco felt disappointment seep through his body. If even this exit was locked down, what escape route remained? Shut up, he said. Last thing we need is a visit from the cops. You shut up, Taco, Mike said. He shoved past Marco and walked toward the service elevator. Take us back into our prison. They rode up into the third floor in silence, and when they reached the service hall, Mike pushed his way out first, followed by Drew. They stormed down the passage and into the public hall without so much as a see you later, Ryan. So much as a see you later. Ryan, however, clapped a hand on Marco's shoulder before leaving the elevator. Thanks, he said. For nothing, Marco added. Ryan shrugged. At least we tried. He ran down the hall after his fellow douches. she focused on what she could do: hand washing, avoiding physical contact with other human beings. From her vomit visit, she knew the bathrooms were the last place one should go wash one's hands, so she bought a giant bottle of hand sanitizer. She rubbed the stuff all over her skin about 50 times. The portable scanner dragged down the pockets of Lexi's hoodie, knocking against her thighs as she walked back towards the Apple store. "Hey, baby," some kid across the hall howled. "Nice humps." Then he started singing that song badly in the back and the front. "Jerk off," she mumbled and walked faster. Back in the Apple store, she tried to work on her movie. She had to do something other than rub alcohol on her body. But every few minutes a question would pop into her brain, like, did he say dead? Have people died? The senator pushed open the stockroom doors just before 7. She'd been going back and forth through the paper clips using some maze of back hallways. "I need to talk with you," Lexi growled from the shadows. Her mother started, eyes widening in shock, then sighed. "Really, Lexi," she said, rubbing her forehead. "I'm about ready to keel over it as it is." I saw the paper clips, and Lexi slid the scanner across the desktop. "And I heard what they're testing people for." 2 cops shuffled into the stockroom behind the senator, and she waved them into the store. The stockroom doors closed, leaving Lexi and the senator alone in the dim light shining from between the shelves. The senator considered Lexi for a moment, then sank into the chair at the desk. "You sure you want to know?" "Yes." "Are you really going to tell me?" The senator smirked. "I know you think I still see you as my little baby, but I know you're a big girl now." Her use of the phrase "big girl" nearly put Lexi through the roof. Dottie wrapped her fingers around Lexi's hands. "You're sticky," she said. "Hand sanitizer." Dottie squeezed her fingers. "Good thinking." She explained that a small device of unknown origin was discovered in the parking garage by some kid. The thing was attached to the ventilation system for the part of the mall. It was pumping something into the air. "A biotoxin?" Lexi asked, her voice cracking on the word. "That's what we're trying to figure out in the medical ward," Dottie said, as if a biotoxin were merely an air freshener. "We're testing people to see if anything's wrong with them. The device itself kind of imploded when the feds pried it off the air duct, so we couldn't get a reading of what had been inside it." "Have people died?" Dottie exhaled slowly. "As far as I know, one old woman, but that could be unrelated." "So what are they going to do once they figure out what's in the air?" Lexi's leg began to jiggle. "Then the medical teams will start working to fix it. Federal agents are handling most of the operations now, so my information is limited to what they decide I need to know. I'm hoping the tests say it's a plague." She crossed her fingers and looked to the heavens. "Come on, plague." Lexi laughed. It wasn't funny, but she desperately needed to laugh. When plague was your best case scenario, you know you're in trouble. "At least plague is curable." Dottie dropped her hand back onto Lexi's. They sat there hand in hand for a moment, then Lexi slid down off the desk. "Thanks for telling me," she said. "I trust you," her mother said. "Does Dad know?" "He does." Dottie stood and pulled her jacket straight. "But we need to keep this between the 3 of us, okay? You're not going to tell people?" "Not until we know what we're dealing with," she said, sounding more like the senator. "We don't want people to panic." "Who's the we?" Lexi asked, stepping back. Dottie gave her a playful punch in the arm. "The good guys," she said. "Your friendly local government and FEMA overlords." "Why does that not make me feel better?" "We try our very best not to make everything worse," Dottie said. "Old government motto." She smiled at Lexi. "So we are in this agreement. We keep this a Ross family secret." "Like all those gold-plated toilet seats we keep in the basement." "Exactly," Dottie said, putting an arm around Lexi. Lexi didn't even try to shrug it off. They decided to go to Chopsticky Buns for dinner. It turned out to be the best meal the family had shared in a long while. Mom and Dad joked about lapses in personal hygiene, and Lexi didn't feel the need to make any snarky comments. She was steeped in a soup of warm fuzzies for her parents, and all it took was one life-threatening bomb. There were only 2 smudges in the otherwise perfect evening. One, Dottie was tailed by 2 security guards, and head. She had bags under her eyes, and her clothes smelled like a locker room. A man stood a few feet behind her with two small kids. One of the kids had a runny nose that was dripping off her upper lip. Dottie shifted her body so that Lexi was behind her. "Yes," she said. "Can I help you?" "I heard you were in charge of this nightmare," the woman said, not even trying to control the tone of her voice. "And I need you to let us out of here." She pointed to the man and the two kids. "My kids can't sleep on those cots in the hallway, and we're all at our wits' end." Dottie straightened herself and put on her official voice, the one she used for the mall announcements. "I'm sorry, ma'am. We're working as quickly as possible to resolve the situation." "Don't give me that double talk nonsense," the woman shouted. Lexi noticed other shoppers had begun to stare. One of the guards approached the woman. "Please step back, ma'am." The woman looked at him like she was just itching to slug him in the jaw. "Don't touch me," she said. "I want to know why this woman is holding us in here. That's all." This did not seem like the ideal moment to tell the woman that the best case scenario was an outbreak of the plague. The guard puffed up his chest. "I'm going to ask you again, ma'am. Please step back." The woman's husband came to her side. "We know our rights. We just want to get out of here." Another man approached. "Yeah, let us out of here." He turned to the other people who gathered in their stretch of a hallway, pumped his fist in the air, and began to chant, "Let us out, let us out." Others joined in. Lexi saw the guard pull a walkie-talkie from his belt and mumble something into it. Arthur came up behind Lexi and grabbed her shoulders. "Come with me now." He whispered in her ear. He tugged her away from Dottie. "What about Mom?" Lexi said. "She wanted to make sure you were safe," Arthur said. They began to run back to the Apple store. As they ran, the chanting got louder. It was like watching a storm roll in. From the front window of the Apple store, Lexi could see where they'd left her mother standing in the hallway. Lexi pressed herself against the floor-to-ceiling glass and watched, horrified, as more and more people crowded together. Their shouts echoed around the open spaces of the mall like thunder. Lexi pulled out her phone. She needed to talk to Darren. She opened the text and saw there was no signal. Not that she couldn't get through, there was no cell signal at all. Our friendly FEMA overlords must be using a damper. This explained the near-constant congestion of the cell signal. Now they'd simply jammed the entire frequency. The government did not want the riot tweeted. A troop of 20 mall security guys bearing full-body plastic shields marched into the hallway. They banged on the back of the shields with police baton, and one held the megaphone and repeated over and over, "Remain calm, stay back." No one seemed to be listening, and the crowd's chanting grew louder. The people turned from her mother to the face of the oncoming invasion. Something hit the glass above Lexi with a bang. She fell back on her hands, breathless, and glanced up. A spiderweb of fractures surrounded a white puncture. On the ground were the remains of a cell phone. If she were 4 inches taller, it would have been nailed between her eyes. Ginger and Maddie staggered into the Apple store screaming, "What's going on?" Maddie yelled to no one in particular. Ginger slumped around the counter. "I just wanted my comforter," she mumbled. "I didn't want to sleep on the floor again." "No, hello. No, glad to see you." They'd been shopping. Both wore new clothes. Ginger a pup, fluffy pink sweater, and Maddie a see-through tee with a black bra. Lexi stood and wiped the dust from her jeans. "Then take it and leave before things get worse." Maddie cocked at her. "You want us to leave?" A bottle flew through the open entry and smashed against the table. Ginger screamed as shards of green glass exploded onto her side. Lexi rushed to her. "We have to get away from this door," she said, thrusting a shoulder under Ginger's arm. Maddie nodded and pushed Ginger off the table, who stumbled, sobbing, after Lexi. One of the senator's police detail burst into the Apple store with one arm around Dottie's shoulder. He pointed to the Apple salespeople. "You have a security gate?" he asked. A woman nodded and held up a key. "Close it," he shouted. He dropped Dottie next to a table and ran out. Lexi lowered Ginger onto her comforter. Maddie mumbled a string of profanity under her breath, eyes teary with concern. Lexi pulled a large shard from Ginger's arm. There was no blood. "I think the sweater took most of the damage," Lexi said, smiling. Maddie shoved Ginger, then started crying. "Don't freaking do that to me." Ginger laughed through her tears. "I guess I tend to overreact when assaulted by glassware." They pulled the largest pieces from Ginger's sweater, and then she carefully pulled the thing off. She had a few superficial scrapes, but nothing serious. "This tank is so unflattering," Ginger said, pulling at the fabric of her undershirt. "Lucky for you," Lexi said, "the last thing anyone is looking at right now is your shirt." The senator was busy organizing the fear-stricken Apple staff. They closed the security sat slumping into the seat at the desk where only a few hours ago Lexi had interrogated her mother. She could tell them, explain everything. They'd be grateful, maybe grateful enough to be her friends. She didn't need friends that badly. They'd been all locked in the mall for 3 days, Lexi said. I guess the moose acts enough to drive even the sanest person nuts, Maddie said. Maybe they really wanted to go to work, Ginger said. Maddie looked at her like she had grown a hair lip. Yeah, they're going to riot so they can get back to the office. I missed ballet class, Ginger said. No way I'm getting Coppolia in the winter recital now. Maddie kicked her feet onto the desk while I got out of field hockey practice. Thank you, security situation. Lexi wondered what she had missed. She was a member of no club, no sport. She checked in on her online worlds. Missed nothing there. I had a bio lab, Lexi added. It was all she could think of. Neither girl reacted. They probably sensed she had no outside life to lose. I'm bored, Maddie said. Maybe we should go back out to the riot. Ginger shoved Maddie's feet off the desk and sat down. I'm not risking my life to give you a thrill. What about that time I convinced you to go skydiving? Ginger rolled her eyes. We had parachutes. All these things to do in the real world. All these things to do in the real world. Lexi had watched some YouTube videos about skydiving to get ideas for CG camera moves. We could listen to it, Lexi offered, pulling the scanner from her pocket. She flicked the machine on. After a squeal and a crackle, they heard hysterical shouting, screams, muffled blows. Launch the tear gas, a voice shouted. Not in a confined space, the senator. A muffled boom like a gunshot, more screams. Lexi slid the scanner onto the desktop, and they huddled around it, silent, mesmerized. After some time, they noticed that they were holding on to one another, and when the screams finally died down, when the chatter over the scanner became mere orders to herd the former rioters into their stores, the three stayed there, woven together, until lights out buried them in darkness, and they curled on the cement floor to sleep. Day 4, Tuesday. Shay. There were limits. Shay. There were limits to how long a person could remain positive in the face of adversity, and Shay had reached hers. She had spent the night in the snooze select taking care of Nanny, who shivered with cold 1 minute and threw her blankets off the next. Around midnight, she had developed a cough. Of course, when Shay asked Nanny what was wrong, she said, "It's nothing. I'm feeling better. It's just a cold." How was Shay supposed to help when Nanny lied about her symptoms? Although the mall god had announced at lights on that free food would be provided at the former testing station, there was a long line at the Burger Baron. Shay had eaten her free ration, but was hoping the servers would give her some soup, as Nanny refused to eat solid food. Shay had scoured the entire diabetes section of the Merck manual, for which she paid a significant chunk of change yesterday afternoon, and had found nothing to explain what a cough and chills had to do with diabetes. She ordered Preeti to buy Tylenol, since that was what Pa gave them when they were sick, but Nanny couldn't swallow the pills. So Shay had Preeti get children's liquid Tylenol, and Nanny spilled half the bottle when a fit of coughing took her mid-sip. Apart from 2 shopping trips, Preeti had been useless. She whined about going to Hollister, how Shay had promised that they could sleep in Hollister, and Shay had finally blown up at her and screamed, "You want to go to Hollister? Then just go." So Preeti left. "We're out of toaster sticks," the girl at the register droned when Shay reached the front of the line. "Do you have any soup?" The girl spoke to her headset mic. Shay heard the voice on the other end reply in a negative. "Not until noon," she said. "Then just a coffee," Shay said, dropping a bill on the counter. Shay slunk away from the registers with her steaming cup and plopped into a seat. She considered going to the clothing depot along with the free food. It had been announced that people on the outside had donated clothing, but from the shouts echoing up from the first floor found it sound like it was already too much of a madhouse. She was definitely not volunteering for the requested cleanup crew. No gift certificate was worth entering the bathrooms for longer than absolutely necessary. Brilliant sunlight streamed through the glass ceiling, and Shay closed her eyes and let the bright light burn through her eyelids. It must have been a beautiful day outside. She tried to remember what day even was. "Hey there." Shay cracked open her eyes and shielded them behind her hand. Ryan stood in front of her. The sunlight behind him formed a blazing halo. God, he was pretty. "I'm so glad I found you," he said. He had a bruise on his face. Somehow it made him even look better. "You were looking for me?" she asked, trying to seem nonchalant. He smiled that irresistible half-smile. "Well, yeah," he said. "We have a date to make up." His use of the word date energized her better than any cup of coffee. Preety was in Hollister. Nanny was fast asleep. "You want to go to the bookstore?" she asked, standing. Was she trembling from lack of sleep or the nearness of him? She rolled and unrolled the hem of her kameez between her fingers. "Can we go somewhere else first?" he asked. "I want to show you something. It's kind of my secret." "We're already sharing secrets," she asked. "I read your poems." "Not my poems," she corrected. "What secrets of mine could you learn reading them?" "You made notes in the margin," he said. "Your favorite poem." He sat and began folding a napkin. "Is about a flower." He took her coffee stirrer only the spirit can touch. He lifted his creation, a paper flower on a stirrer stem. He held it out to her. "My mom taught me to make these." He took her hand gently, his fingers slowly winding into hers, and pressed the flower onto her palm. Warmth radiated from Shay's hand to her body, out then down. "Onward," she asked. "Onward," he answered. Ryan handed Shay a mass of nylon webbing. "You have to, put this around, well, your legs," he said, blushing. "Here, let me show you." He stepped into the two bottom loops, then pulled the waistband, sliding the loops up his jeans and fashioned the harness like a belt. "See?" He lifted his shirt slightly, exposing smooth skin and just the barest hint of navel, then pointed like she wasn't already staring. She wondered if he was really just showing her the harness. "Two can play at this game." "My kameez is going to get in the way," she said. "I'll be right back." She walked, feet barely touching the tiles, to a changing room, undid her jolie, and slipped the kameez over her head. She then pulled the jolie back on, fastened the clasp between her shoulder blades, and slipped the harness over her jeans. The jolie fit tight around her curves, ending just above her waist and leaving her belly exposed to the top of her low-riding jeans. The harness wrapped around her natural waist. The padding hugged her skin, and she liked her body. Why not show it? Stepping out of the room, she saw that her plan had the desired effect. Ryan's jaw unhinged itself. So stunned. Maybe he really was just showing me the harness. She swallowed the nervousness that bubbled inside at this realization and decided to just play it cool. So she upped the ante. He was a boy for whom the ante should be upped. "Now what?" she said, as if she were confident in her half-nakedness. "Well, the ropes." He snatched a rope from the wall. It was already knotted around a metal D-ring. "You want to go first?" he asked. He seemed to be fighting the urge to drop his gaze. "Sure," she said. He paused for a moment, then reached forward and quickly slipped the ring around a small loop on the front of her harness. His hands came distressingly close to her skin, and goose flesh pimpled her belly. He stepped back, his cheeks fiery with blush, and attached a different metal gizmo to his harness. "Now climb," he said. "I've got you." He looked into her eyes and flashed his half-smile, and she knew that he did. Standing nose to wall, she wrapped her hands around two small lumpy handholds just above her head, put one foot in front of the lump, then lifted off the ground as she moved spider-like up the wall. She felt him tighten the ropes between them. "You're almost there," he shouted. She reached up and touched the ceiling. There was a small ledge nearby, and she scooted herself onto it. She wasn't high off the ground, but she may as well have been. She felt like she was orbiting the earth from the dizzy feeling she got looking back down at him. "Now jump," he said. He pulled the slack from her rope. She leaned back off the edge, feeling the strength of his hold on her, then dropped her hair, whipping across her face until the rope caught her, jolting her, forcing a yelp of laughter from her already smiling lips. He lowered her down slowly, and she hung limp until she felt her feet touch the ground. "Great, right?" he said, steadying her. "Amazing," she said. He climbed next. He moved expertly up the wall, his